Arbory Digital Experience. This is episode 8. This is the Adobe Summit 2024 recap. And as you can see, I'm not in my usual place. I am still in my hotel room, still in Las Vegas. I haven't gone home yet. Never mind that, I haven't even briefed my team really on what's happened at Adobe Summit. And I wanted to cut this video while all the info is still fresh in my mind, because this particular Adobe Summit, with no hyperbole, there was more released, talked about, and slow dripped or fast dripped or fire hosed that materially disrupts things that we've all been doing for the last decade or so. And I wanted to encapsulate them in some sort of an understandable way. So if this audience here, people I'm talking to are developers, architects, DevOps guys, tech leaders, people like that have worked in the Adobe experience delivery space. And because you should know about some of the changes that are happening, because the conference started out as this basically Adobe framing it all around generative AI, which is, the whole ChatGPT, Firefly, Dolly type thing where you type in a thing and it generates an image for you or generates a video or whatever, because that's the buzz. And they're like, oh, you got to do it. The whole theme of this conference is what Adobe is doing in this new world of AI. And in the field of content generation, generative AI is the most ridiculously disruptive force and technology, and it's completely changing the way that people generate and create content. The entire content creation, from ideation to content briefs to getting it through into production and so forth, it's being completely disrupted by generative AI. But it's totally not what I'm going to be talking about right now, because there is a complete other disruptive force, which I feel like flew under the radar for a lot of people in terms of what they're seeing, because what's flashy is, like, generative AI is flashy. The fact that you can go and you type in a thing and it goes and it makes something, and then previously you had to go and slave over it and just go, oh my gosh, I got to do all these little things. Now you don't. That's wild. But from a tech implementer's perspective, there are some other disruptions that I want to talk about. So if you got a sec, go strap some headphones in, go for a half an hour walk. I'm going to try to summarize this in not too long, so that I can at least give you what I've been mulling over, because there's some big stuff that has shifted that may shift your technology plans. So what I'm going to talk about right now are AEM sites, assets, dynamic media, and edge delivery. And that sounds boring, but you got to hang with me for a second here. So if I were great at scripting and so forth, I'd probably save my punchlines for the very end, but I'm just going to get the punchline out of the way at the very beginning right now. The mega disruptive force right now is the ridiculous speed of development, delivery, and composition and flexibility of edge delivery. And as a DevOps guy, I'm probably somebody who has made their entire living on servers and blinking lights and switches and routers and load balancers and backup plans and disaster recovery scenarios and all that sort of stuff. It is completely changing the way that you even think about how to compose a website, how it's put together, how you're delivering it, your asset storage, your asset delivery, your components, your mobile plans, all that stuff. Let me explain. So previously, and for like a very long time now in internet land, like basically for, basically half of the lifetime of the entire public internet, there's been AEM/CQ, which is served from servers. And this has been the way that we have developed things. It hasn't changed. Every summit, you come and you go, good, what's new? What are the things that I need? Okay, what are the new features that are coming out? But the one thing that hasn't changed is you're going to develop on things that are going to be deployed on these servers. Now, some people have like changed things which really are subtle shifts, like going from an on-premise system to the cloud, or going from cloud systems that you manage to a cloud service. But the way that it's all being delivered is all essentially the same. You're trying to take advantage of a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, GUI experience of developing content, which is all done with components, which are served from a Java application server and are all stored in a big content repository and so forth. And there's all these skills around that we've developed over the years of how to care and feed and manage and develop all those components. And we all know that it takes a really long time to do a bunch of things. We know how to estimate these projects. We know all that kind of stuff. And edge delivery is turning a bunch of this on its head, and it's giving flexibility to things and preposterous speed of rollout that is, I don't know that I can overstate how much this changes. So just to give an example of this, just to really kind of set the stage. So, and some of this I've known bits of, but I can't talk about publicly because it was never said publicly. But it was said publicly at Adobe Summit, so now I can talk about it. So Adobe themselves, right? So we've had all these iterations of things that we've been, ushered along to go and do things like AEM managed services, AEM as a cloud service. These are different services having to do with Adobe hosting and delivery. Okay. Adobe.com has been on self-hosted AEM 6.5 all this time because it is rock solid and stable, which is an option that a lot of companies have also stayed with over the years. They have not gone to a third-party or Adobe managed setup. They've done it themselves because DevOps is hard. There's a lot that goes into maintaining and making something really stable and keeping it fast. And if it goes down, like you take Adobe.com and how much goes through Adobe.com, there's a lot that goes through Adobe.com, right? If, Creative Cloud members, now that it's a subscription model and everybody's buying the things online, if that goes down for 10 minutes, heads are going to roll, right? So they haven't moved. But as a result, also, you're dealing with the content velocity and all the things that go into AEM 6.5, which is not that fast. And developing new experiences on AEM 6.5 is not that fast. It actually takes a lot of labor. And then once it's not very conducive to massive change also. So, because any project takes a bunch of developers and a bunch of time to be able to implement. If you look at any Adobe Experience Manager project that I've estimated, and nothing gets done in less than 3 months. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So at this point, though, so Edge Delivery Services has been kind of slow rolled out. It was like kind of released to the public really last year. It's been, a bunch of us knew about it, but in terms of like, what was it? It was in the same category as generative AI, in that it's a neat toy. You can't use it for anything serious, but it's a neat toy. It has gone way out of being a neat toy to the point where everything in Adobe, all Adobe sites basically have migrated to Edge Delivery Service. And they've done that at a shocking speed with really good results in terms of how much do the authors like authoring on it, how fast can they make changes, how fast can they develop new experiences, how fast can they go and change some piece of the UI. The SLAs for how fast they can do it are just ridiculously fast. And the fact that they were able to make that whole transformation, care for absurd amounts of traffic easily, and we're able to do it over the course, really the entire transformation. I mean, it started with the Adobe blog and moved forward. Now there's only vestiges, small vestiges of pages of content that are still being served off of the old 6.5, and everything else. You've got Experience League, helpx.adobe.com, all the documentation, business.adobe.com, the blog, all these other things. They're all being served off of Edge Delivery Service, and so let me take a step back for a second. So for anybody who isn't caught up on Edge Delivery Service, what it is, how it's different, all that sort of thing. So Edge Delivery Service is a collection of services. Edge Delivery Service. It's for delivery of content. You can plug in a bunch of different ways to get content into this. It's extraordinarily fast, extraordinarily resilient, and for the most part is based off of the premise that you are using documents that you feed it, and it can be fed with simple Markdown, like GitHub Markdown. It can be fed by Google Drive documents and spreadsheets. It can be fed by SharePoint, Word docs, and Excel spreadsheets, and so forth. And the output that it then produces is optimized to be the very fastest sites on the entire internet. You start out from a Lighthouse score of 100, where it's just preposterously fast. So, and the way that it is then developed too, because of the fact you've got this total separation of concerns of the content, how you're preparing it, and then the display. The display is all done with commodity JavaScript and CSS. You basically, because like with a AEM site, you got to know, like, in order to deliver an AEM site, you need a minimum of like 5 languages, maybe 6, to be able to deliver it. Where you have to have Java, sometimes JSP, Sightly, CSS, JavaScript. Then you have the other languages of being able to then get it out, which are all the configuration that goes into the delivery tier, which is the dispatcher. So you got all the Apache configuration, and then the dispatcher configuration, which is all the cache control, is its own language, which is these dispatcher.ini files. So that's a little bit of talent that you need to maintain in order to get your average AEM site out. Many sites need more than this, right? But that's a bunch to learn. Edge Delivery Service needs JavaScript and CSS. That's all you need. And that JavaScript and CSS is not this AEM core components, super domain-specific stuff where you can't even learn it on your own. Edge Delivery, you can learn on your own. You can try it on your own. You can even launch a site on your own. So it's super conducive to onboarding new developers and getting the talent that you need to be able to go and launch a site really fast. So here's what this... So it'd be one thing if you couldn't get a lot of it. So in the beginning, yes, its feature set didn't have enough where you could take a major website project and say, good, well, let me think about making this website project on Edge Delivery. And you're like, no, it's still kind of lacking a lot of features. But they have been, so the very most talented people so many talented people at Adobe, but some of the top guys, including like basically the Dr. Terrell of AEM, like the inventor of this in the first place, they're all working on edge delivery. So we've got some absolutely brilliant minds in Adobe land working on solving problems of edge delivery. And there's some bright, fast, agile solutions for making sites now, of rapidly taking an old site, ingesting it into edge delivery, throwing it into documents, and then launching it. Now here's the other thing. All right, so now let me get into things that have changed in AEM land or in digital experience land, and things that were released which now further feed into the disruption that this then causes. Okay, so in terms of things that were released with AEM sites, probably the biggest thing that changed with AEM sites, or the biggest release, is the Universal Editor. Universal Editor has been an open secret for a while. It's been in beta and pre-release and so forth. What the Universal Editor is an interface that allows you to do headful implementations, like regular core components implementations. It allows you to do headless implementations if you're doing a React app or something like that, but it also allows you to do edge delivery service deployments directly in AEM. So it gives you the flexibility of being able to, let's just say you've got a website and you've got a ton of workflows already built in. You've got a lot that you've already done, and you like the way that you're managing the content. You just wish it was faster to reskin, roll out new pages, do new UIs, and you want the actual page delivery speed to be faster. Okay, you can basically then take that content that you have in AEM and use the Universal Editor to deploy it straight to Edge Delivery Service, and have you basically at that point, just to be super clear, you're bypassing. There's no published tier, dispatcher tier, or published dispatcher CDN on top of that. You're not using that part of the stack at all. You're publishing it. There's basically a connector that in AEM that just goes and you say, good, here's my project, here's my Edge Delivery Service project, and it goes straight out to Edge Delivery Service. And you can have that stuff running side by side with your other AEM content, path by path. Which, okay, I just think about this for a second. Just be an architect for a sec. So you're sitting there with a customer and you're like, okay, what are your requirements? Oh, okay, my site has to do this and this and this and this and this. It has to be able to connect to this. It has to be able to connect to this. But for the most part, most of our site is these parts and these parts and these parts. You build the entire solution based on some of the most complicated requirements that you have. Because you could say, oh, I would love for you to go and use this simple service over here, but you've got a couple pages that really have these backend connectivity requirements. Maybe that's only 3 pages of the site that have these backend connectivity requirements, but you're going to design your entire solution around the fact that you've got 3 pages that need to talk to a SQL server for one thing to pull an event list, and you've got one other thing that needs to talk to some on-premise whatever, or some form or something like that. So you said, okay, good, well, I guess we can't move to the cloud because we've got these backend connectivity requirements. Hey, if you're running on AEM Cloud Service now, you can architect a solution where all of the pages of your site that require, that don't have all these crazy technical requirements, they're all pushed out to Edge Delivery, either document-based or using the Universal Editor. And then the parts that really are like, they are really impractical to move, fine. If it's like, because in some cases, like, it's like anything is technically possible. Just about anything is technically possible besides like humans flying by themselves, not launched out of a catapult. But there's a difference between technically possible and politically viable. And in some cases, you say, good, well, can we open up this one thing to the internet? And then the chief security officer is like, absolutely not. It's never going to happen. You're okay, good. Well, then we have to use our VPN connection, and we're going to have to serve this page out of an AEM publisher. Okay, serve that page out of an AEM publisher. That's one page. The rest of the site can be on edge delivery. So this is where you go, okay, stuff's starting to really, really change here. So other things that have been released that make this even more compelling. So in AEM, there's now out-of-the-box instant experimentation that you can do. Basically, you don't need to have a whole Adobe Target team in order to be able to do simple A/B testing or ABCDEFG testing. That's now inbuilt into both the AEM Universal Editor and into the core Edge Delivery Service product that you can deploy right now, where you can just go and say, good, I want to run an experiment and a challenger and select a winner out of these 3 layouts. And just say layout 1, layout 2, layout 3, layout 4, good, select it, and it'll just go and push it out. Like, there's no coding. Like, I did a lab where we did this I had it done in 5 minutes. It was all done, configured and out in 5 minutes. And I've never done it before. It was so dead simple. Whereas there's a lot of companies that, oh yeah, we'd love to do a bunch of that A/B testing, but then there's all these, MBox setups and so forth. There's weeks and weeks of project planning and getting developers and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now it's just like literally I could take a couple of these managers that I've talked to who tell me I'm not technical. You know what? You're technical enough to do this. You're 100% technical enough to do this. So all right. So you have that end of things. Experimentation is amazing. There's some other, okay, fine. I said I wasn't going to talk about GenAI. There are a couple of GenAI features that are really cool, that are not just floofy background stuff. Things like AI-driven content variations, where you say, all right, what are some different ways that we could lay this out? And you could have GenAI go and code you a few different ways that a page could be laid out, and then do your bunch of A/B testing out of that. You can generate call-out images based on a prompt out of Firefly that could be brand specific. Because one of the things, okay, good, fine. I said I wasn't going to talk about GenAI, but here I go. So one of the things that they're launching as part of Firefly is custom models. You've got a foundation model, which is everybody uses. When you say a prompt, is all based on public domain stuff. Then they have your brand models that are only trained on your data, and the data never leaks out. So if you have, let's just say you're, I don't know, a shoe company or you're a manufacturing company or something like that, you've got a whole bunch of stuff that is yours. You've got logos and assets, and you got brand styling and all that kind of stuff. You just want it to train just on this, and you don't want it to include anything that looks like a competitor, and you don't want it to, so you can have your own models plugged in on top of Firefly and have it generate versions of this. Where you just say, okay, good, knock out the background, give me a background that works, that's brand specific, that looks like my stuff, and then good, fire. And then so being able to rapidly roll out pages and things like that have a bunch of brand aware content on that. That's cool. That's cool. So, and then there's other nifty integrations, which are less like, oh my gosh, transformative. But so there's a lot in sites. So now I want to pivot a little bit just for a sec. I want to talk about digital asset management and delivery, because this also has the power to completely change how you're going about things. So in the past, we would also have, a lot of times AEM would also contain all of your images. Like the reason why your AEM instance would be so gigantic is because it would also contain all of your images for and digital assets for everything, right? So you'd end up with this big author server that was absolutely ginormous, like sometimes like terabytes of space inside of this one computer that has all of your stuff in it, right? But then once it has all this stuff in it, how are you going to, you're going to have to then duplicate all this data all over the place when you go and you try to serve it out. So let's just say you've got a bunch of videos, or you have just whatever, 10,000 PDF files that have to be, that are all the product manuals for your thing, or whatever it is, right? So you're going to have to then, let's just say, you want to publish this and make it available on your whole website and to other services. So then those tens of thousands of PDFs and images and so forth, you publish them, and then they have to be then available on every last publish server that you have in order to keep yourself highly available. So you're then copy pasting all of this content. Let's just say you've got 4 publishers or 6 publishers or 8 publishers or something. You're copy pasting this content across all of those machines. Look at your footprint right now of how much gear you're having to do just to be able to publish this. So the part that's made things difficult is people have said, okay, good, I've got this gear, but I would love to be able to use my assets in this site over here, or I've got Adobe Express, and we're trying to make a cool workflow for this over here, or you're using Workfront over here, or we've got a WordPress blog, or we've got other ways that we're sharing these things out over here. It's you, once you've got all your assets in one place, you want to share it, but being able to actually distribute them has been really, really trying. And the whole, there have been some really neat user interface changes in assets, and I'm not even going to go into those right now. The part that really changes the world is dynamic media. So dynamic media is another Adobe product, which a lot of times gets plugged onto your AEM instance or your AEM license, and it has the ability to help you serve things out broadly and with the right size and the right bit rate for your videos and things like that. But now what this has the ability to do is this whole API, so that all of your assets you could serve anywhere as a part of anything, anytime, completely irrespective of whether you're on AEM sites, if it's a legacy AEM sites instance, if it's edge delivery, if it's anywhere, it can get served out. And not only can it just get served out, they've got this whole API based on things like, let's say you've got 10 different colors of a blouse that you've got. The API allows you to go and select punch out backgrounds just in a query string on the image, and then serve out whenever the 20 or 50 or 100 different variations of the same image. Or let's say you've got different discounts or different languages, text, localizations on the image itself. Maybe the image is going out as a part of an email. Maybe you're hyper personalizing this and you want to say, hey Tad, I've got this this really awesome mountain bike for you, and it's 50% off. That image can say, hey Tad, on the image that's served out directly out of your AEM assets instance coming from dynamic media. So you make one image once and serve it to everybody with the needs that they've got. What this does is allows you to completely rethink your entire infrastructure for delivery. Because once again, as an architect, I am constantly going, what are the main requirements that you've got for delivery? So, okay, good, so we need to have this assets environment here. It needs to be this big. You need to use it over here. So you're going to host this on premise, or the fact that you can serve all of this seamlessly anywhere, globally, from anything, totally frees up, like it completely frees you up to be able to design a brilliant new infrastructure. So I hope you're getting some of the implications of this, because there are some times where you've said, good, well, this is going to be a year-long project to move this thing to AEM Cloud Service from 6.5. We're going to have to redo all these different core components, or redo all these old Java server pages in AEM core components and so on and so forth, and it's going to take all this and all this development work. These projects of this sort can be massively compressed at this point with edge delivery. And the offshoot of that is that, and this is, I think, and this is, that makes some people I talk to here, it made them pretty scared because they've got big AEM teams, and if your projects go super fast, then that's less money for you or something like that. But just think about the fact that from all the years that I've been going to Adobe Summit, Adobe releases tools, and they're awesome tools, and there are these amazing tools, and then I go back to where we're having to be working, and how many of those features are actually going to be implemented in those companies, and it's like basically like a microfraction of that. And because once you've gone through one of these mega AEM upgrades, you just don't have budget and time and bandwidth to be able to deal with, like, hey, should we do journey optimization and all this experimentation and super personalization and all this other stuff? Like, should we do that? Yeah, we should totally do that. We just 100% do not have the budget. We're not Coca-Cola. We're not Delta Airlines. We don't have the bandwidth and the money to go out and do that. So you don't. But if you could get that site done super fast, and you've got a little bit of budget and time and bandwidth and people to be able to throw into experimentation, you can dive more into those services. So from Adobe's point of view, you're just going to broaden the number of services that you're able to take advantage of, which is only just going to make your customers' experience better and make the returns that you get on it that much better as well. Okay, so there's a lot of things that I did not touch on this. As usual, you can count on me for a big blog post that goes into all the different top innovations of various things, where I'm going to summarize I didn't even talk about things like in assets. There's a brand new thing called Content Hub, which basically is going to essentially replace Brand Portal. So anybody who's used Brand Portal, if you got this problem of having external agencies and people be able to contribute and use assets that you have internally, it's a brand new system for that. There's analytics built into AEM assets now that is just it changes the world. You've got a whole new search interface, natural language search interface built into AEM assets for finding things. There's a lot of really neat tech that was released, but again, I don't think that there's ever been a time where it's more important to really get yourself skilled up on the changes and open your mind to completely new ways of doing things, because it's not just generative AI that is completely making these, I hate the phrase paradigm shift, but that is just simply completely turning on its head all of the ingrained ways that we would think about websites, assets, and infrastructure over the last 15 plus years. Hope that's been interesting to you guys. And like I said, I'll make you a blog post of all this. And if you got questions or things that you want to dive into in more detail, or if you want to just come on the podcast as well and just talk to me about it, then let's do so. But if there's one thing that I want to end with, it's this. So the thing about Adobe Summit that I've always loved is that you get all these presentations straight from the horse's mouth. And like when you go and you look at customer gear and you're looking at ways that you're looking at something for the first time, and they did something really weird, and you're like, why'd you do that? And they're like, well, Adobe told me to do da. You're like, okay, Adobe told you to. Adobe's a brand. They're a corporate entity, and they have a logo. Logos don't talk. Brands don't talk. People talk. So somebody at Adobe told you to do this, right? Now in this new world where there's so many new features and ways of going about things, obviously you have all these super intelligent engineers spread all through Adobe who have been doing these things for a long time. And you watch a presentation, and in some cases, you get the official line of like basically something that integrates well with the brand story of what Adobe's doing, and then you go talk to them directly, and they say, well, okay, good. It says you could do this, but there's, as you talk to that guy, and then you talk to somebody else, and they say, well, I understand why he would say that, but there's some other cases you should consider. So when you talk to these individuals, and this is, the whole value of being able to be here in person and have the type of conversations that you want to have, is that you talk to everybody, and then you can now form your own view of how do you want to move forward. How does this now apply to your problems and your infrastructure? Because they could say that they're a fanboy of this new way of doing stuff, and you go, good, I understand that you're a fan. It's totally not going to work for me. Not at all. Not even a little bit. But in some cases, it totally would. And so learning about this has never been more essential. I super encourage you to go through some of the new AEM.live documentation. And please just reach out and talk to your friends at Adobe. Talk to me if you want about your plans going forward, because there are some things that if you made a strategy a year ago, you're going to want to look at it again. All right. That's all for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got a good walk in while you're listening to it. But see you next time.